Hello, hello. How's it going? Turn that down just a tad. How's that sound? Happy Friday. I actually had vacation this week. So we didn't go anywhere. I kind of just got a whole bunch of stuff done. So that was nice. That to-do list was starting to get long. So it was nice to tackle some of that. Today, though, we are going to continue with the 3D models, and we were setting up a 3D model with React Fiber 3 in within the browser, built with Parcel, and we were hooking up TMI.js and Effection to set up a message queue. So when somebody sends a message, we can dump that into a queue and we can process it in whatever fashion we want to after that. We were running into a few issues the past couple of streams. There's been some issues with the cache. We keep running into the cache just sticking around, and it seems the only way that we can get rid of that is a hard refresh. And that tripped us up when we were first pulling in the model and trying to pull the textures on. And now last time that also started tripping us up when we were working on hooking up Effection. We were getting confusing errors that shouldn't have been. There was, in retrospect, very obvious issues, like we messed up an import. But the errors we were getting were not pointing to that whatsoever. And it's one of those things that it should have. Cat is licking the green screen, so I see all this stuff moving around me. Goofy kitties. So I think we've at least gotten to the point that we can recognize that that's happening. I think there's still a little bit more to be done to actually understand why that's happening. But I think we'll kind of figure that out. Speaking of kitty. Hello. So let's switch over to the display here. Last time we ended off, we were getting some confusing results from setting up the event handling through Effection with TMI.js. And it turns out after fixing the issues that were coming up, it turns out the thing that was we were also missing is we needed to use on emit. I guess it is typical when you emit events to only have one value returned. TMI.js does 4. So we need to use on emit, and through Effection we've got this array syntax, so we could pull out the different pieces of it. So since it's passing in multiple args, Effection effectively dumps it into an array that we can then pull those args back out. Cat cam, yep. I thought about actually hooking one up. I don't know where I would put it. I could. They pretty much sit on the couch right there. I could hook up a cat cam on the couch, which would be fun. But then, where do I put it here? But also I kind of want to solve for that too, because at some point, hey Ratio, glad you could stop by. At some point, I want to have some guests. I know things, I can experiment with things, but there's lots of things that I don't know. And I would love to have people on to talk about things that they know and I don't. or even just sort of a pairing session if it's something that we're both deeply involved in. I think that would be fun to see sort of the back and forth with that. But when it's just me, that could be a cat cam. I mean, we've got the extra camera. We were using it for the Raspberry Pi stuff, so, it's a thing. For next time, though. So, we figured out that we needed to use onOmit, and we could use the erase syntax to grab all the events. So now, y'all have been chatting. Very crisp chroma. Actually, speaking of which, I forgot to turn on my other light. I finally fixed it again. When did I do this? So I have a green screen. Green screen I got a handful of months ago. And I've been playing with my lights a little bit, and actually forgot to change my light color. I need like it's gotten to the point where I feel like I can get a decent setup going. That's a little bit better. I can get a decent setup going, but now there's a lot of stuff to do before I hit record, and most of it happens after I hit record. I need a checklist so I remember to do all the things. Happy Friday, Finite. Good to see you. I saw a bit of your stream. Was it yesterday? You were working with filters on cameras. I hopped in for a little bit. Pretty neat stuff. I definitely appreciate what you're doing there. Okay, so the OBS stuff. Yes. Yep. Yesterday. Okay. It all blends together. Okay. So we did figure out this deal. So now we should be able to get this queue going. Okay. So this was the last bit that I hadn't quite figured out prior to now. I was using use operation. And I think I'm gonna have to remind myself a little bit about the React context stuff. It has been many moons since I had to touch React context. So functionally I remember how they work, but I need a little bit of a refresher here. So I think with that little change here, I don't know if this channel and subscription stuff is going to work yet. That's what we need to work out. But we should be getting a log. So now anytime anybody chats, we should be able to see that now in our console because we're just logging it out. And our next step is, I think, hook up the React context with the Effection stuff. So we're using the Effection React package, which is effectively not documented. Is what it is. So, but the surface area of what it's actually doing is very small. We have a few of these hooks. That's it. So like we can look at the code. It's not the end of the world. But again, that comes back around to I need to remember how use context works and how we need, and as part of that, figuring out how to wire it all together. So React context. Let's do a quick refresh for that. So we've got providers, and we got you make a context, and you have providers, and you have consumers, right? Yep. The provider is the thing that you sort of set up and do all the values. So when we first, where did I put it? Effection context. Yeah. Okay. So Effection context is an export out of here. this is actually setting up a provider. So we set the provider, we set our value to the scope. We are wrapping it in a main function, which is Effection's way of sort of scoping all of these functions. And the value for the provider is the scope of this function. So we're getting this out of Effection setting up the scope, and we're sort of setting up an overall context. And then I think each of this is where my understanding starts to fall down a little bit. So use operation is sort of the base level hook. I don't know that we're expected to actually use that hook. Slices, I don't know that we're going to need them, nor do I know that much about them. I've looked more at the streams and the subscriptions. I think both of those are going to be more appropriate for our use case anyways. But what it's doing is it's actually like extending the use operation hook. And there's streams and subscriptions. And for the most part, it's doing very similar. Setting up a state for that component. And we're grabbing the stream. So I think that's the part where I'm not quite grasping how best to hook this up. So we've got a context, and when we use operation, it is a use effect that's use effect can potentially run multiple times. If you give it the second arg in use effect, if you give it an array, an empty array, it's going to only run once on mount. And there's a whole bunch of discussions on best use cases for that. But you can also list the dependencies, and one of those is the scope, which is the Effection scope. So we're doing use context, pulling in the Effection context that is created in the outer. So this is essentially like grabbing that context and then using it in this use effect. So I don't think we need to do any of the any of the traditional sort of React context stuff, because I think this is going to handle it for us, because then everything use operation is used by these. Setting some state and then returning some state. So I think we can use stream and use subscription on the actual component. Now, the question that we need to understand we've got basically this function that connects the TMI client, sets up the event listener, starts sending information into our channel that we've created, and it's returning that. And like this little bit, returning it, and what do we do with it? That's the part that I think I need to kind of figure out. But quick kind of TLDR on streams and subscriptions, queues and channels. So Effection is the fancy word is structured concurrency, and within there's it's familiar with reactive programming. Those familiar with reactive programming might kind of grasp onto this a little bit quicker. I'm less familiar with RxJS. So it definitely took me a little bit of reading to kind of grasp all this. So we've got queues and we've got channels. When you create a queue, you can send information to that queue, and you can do an expect to get values back. But you don't want to have to like the idea of having a queue is to sort of make it dynamic. So you don't want to just arbitrarily call expect every time you need a value. Hi kitty. So what you can do is you can subscribe to it, and that's going to work great for these for this event, for the messages that come from the event out of TMI.js. And we can loop over a queue. So we can create we can subscribe to it, but also we can use for each, which both starts like pulling out the values, and also it also subscribes to it. And it's going to wait until the subscription closes. So the subscription is going to close whenever like this whenever this component unmounts. So similar to that is a stream. When you can also create a channel, which instead of returning let's see if I can get this right. If you create a channel, when you return, you don't return a subscription, you return a stream. And a stream lets you kind of in-flight transform it. And that's sort of the big thing behind the stream. And then you can have multiple subscriptions to that. So you can see here, we can do sort of multiple versions of this. We have a channel, we're dumping values into it, and we can create multiple streams out of that. And then we can subscribe to those streams. So that might be valuable for handling different types of messages or channel point redemptions. Maybe we dump them all into the channel, and then we create different streams off that channel, and we can do the filter off of that. So we can have like a channel redemption 1 will be we'll filter on a type or something, and that'll be one stream, and then we can do channel point redemption number 2. Then we can have another value for that, and then so we can dump everything into the same channel, and then deal with it afterwards via the filter. So there's maps where you can map over all the values and modify them effectively. And there's also, I think it says somewhere near filters, filter and match. So I think filter and match is sort of what's match doing? Type planet stream. I feel like filter and match are kind of doing the same thing. The match method is similar, but allows you to do structural matching. Okay. Yeah, okay. So a little bit of match is a little bit of sugar on top of filter, I guess. So what we have right now is we've got a channel. When we set up our event emitter, we are sending values to that channel, and we're returning that channel. And if we, so I don't think we actually have, I think that's kind of where I'm sort of like losing my grasp of how to connect this together. When we return a channel, we don't actually have any like hooks or anything to like make use of that, I don't think. So we have a channel. If we want to do any stream modification stuff with it, we can do that. But I guess honestly, so stream, where's channel? Channel. So if we yield on a channel, we get a subscription. So channel returns a stream. So if we, right now we are returning. Wait, stop it. I don't know that anybody actually notices it. I don't know, but it definitely annoys me when I see my background shaking. So we're returning a channel, which is a stream. So this should be, I mean, they call it a channel here. If we would yield to it, I mean, we're still getting channel. I think we want to do that, but then I'm unsure of like what to do with it from here. I think that's the part where I need to kind of figure out where to go. So I was looking at we have an implementation of a thing called Inspect UI, which I don't know that we have any screenshots of. And maybe we might eventually want to hook this up, but it's a way to observe this whole process, so we can put a wrapper around what we're doing here, and I think it starts up a separate server, and we can actually view the whole Effection tree. We can watch it as it's running, which is really neat. And it is using this package, so it's using use slice. So that's a little bit of a difference, but I think functionally we hook it up similarly. So within, I'm gonna move it over here a little bit. Might grab a drink. Okay. Within our nope, is it task tree? Interesting. Is main the yeah. So main is sort of our index. It's doing the Effection context stuff, which we actually pulled from this last time to help us set up that little bit. It's pulling in app and passing app a slice. What is inspect state doing? Inspect utils. What is that returning? Inspect state is running init. It's doing return. So it takes a subscription and returns a resource. So I don't know if that's exactly what we are going to need. There's also this task tree too. Is that pulling in? Router settings. Yeah, see, and this is doing use context too. So we might need to actually pull in use context to deal with some of this. So app is getting that slice, and it is passing that slice to that component. Task tree root. and that's when it does use slice. So it's basically passing it down. So we're doing some passing props here. Task tree and that. Okay, so that's how it pulls in. So we need to, I think we need to figure out how to give a value to the provider. And we need to do, so after creating the context, we need to do the provider stuff. And what is Effection React giving us? So use operation doesn't actually return anything, so we can't do anything with it. It's just dumping this. It's dumping like an operation on in the scope. So don't know that we need to that we can do anything with it. So I think what we need to do is we need to hook up our context manually here. I'm going to take this out. And I think we need to do React create context. So we're going to do use context. Use context comes from React. And so theme. Oh, there's create context, theme context, provider value. Okay. So we need to do a create context. We're doing create context. I think we do want to do it outside. I don't think we want to do, if we do it within the function, I think it runs every time it renders. So I think we do want to say create context outside of this. And initial value. I don't think we care about an initial value. What do we call it? I guess we say and honestly, like, I guess I can move all this up to the app, right? I suppose so, right? I think I might be able to, but I'm gonna just leave it for now. Twitch context. So Twitch context. You usually create a custom provider component that does all the context creation and wrap children. Yeah. I think that's kind of what this is becoming. I was expecting that these would do all the context stuff for me, but I think it's those hooks are purely on the consumption side. Also a custom hook that checks if the context is available. I don't know that these hooks actually do any of that. Before returning the context. And actually, oh, did we refresh? Yeah, I saved, of course. I was seeing if I was going to show the values. So I think this is actually going to become our provider. We're going to init, and so then we need to, whoop, fat finger. We're going to do this. Dot provider. And then that provider is going to have, I guess it's just value. It's going to have that. I'm still not certain about this because this is also creating context. And I am doing a yield in here. So like this is a generator. I don't know how, I haven't actually tried to use generators with I haven't actually used generators with context at all. And I wonder if that's kind of why they're doing some of this. So set up the channel and everything there. And then that goes into, it feels odd. Like, I guess it's basically global state at that point, eh? That's sort of how you're doing like Redux. And I guess the providers too a little bit. But so like if we do this, it's not actually going to return anything because we need to yield to that generator. So I think honestly, like I've convinced myself that I'm going to just move everything here. So we're gonna do an init. Oop. And this is basically gonna end up acting like our global, which I think is gonna be fine for this, honestly. So now we can do yield to TMI. This is going to return a channel. And now we can have a Twitch context, I guess. Dot provider value equals init. And we need to probably pull some of this over. We've got app. We need a bunch of these. We'll just wholesale do that for the moment. I guess we'll do this. Do we have, yeah, I guess we got an Effection up there. We're not using spawn at the moment. I think we actually should end up including spawn at some point, but we're going to leave it out. Spawn is a way to kind of kick off side effect type functions. It's like, go do your thing. Whenever you get done, cool. But it's all running within the scope of this main function. So go do your thing whenever you return. Cool. If something dies or explodes, it's very similar to state machine. I think structured concurrency and state machines sort of live in a very similar space. And I'm actually I want to explore that a little bit too. I kind of feel like, well, I guess we'll leave it at that. Like in general, state machine or state machine-esque stuff, you can kind of fit everything into it. Like just state machine all the things. To the jumping meme. Is that the jumping meme? I don't remember. But I feel like there's some things that you want something to handle it, but like a pure state machine might not be appropriate. And like I think they kind of acknowledge that with I think on the XState docs they say something about side effects. Once you start including like side effects and whatnot, like that starts to get funky. So I think, and I do want to actually experiment with this. I think you can wrap Effection around XState and have Effection manage the side effects that eventually return back into the state machine. I think that might be one of those streams that I end up experimenting on. You can have small actors doing specific stuff: run, finish, and die. Okay. Yeah, then there's also that. Is that, I don't know if that falls in the scope of state machines, but there's the what is that? There's the one in Rust framework that really does it. Is it actors? There's something about actors. Friday brain. Actor model, I guess. An actor framework. Actor-based execution. Actor model, yeah. Okay, all right. I'm not okay. I was like, that sounds super familiar, but I was like, I can't remember. I can't tell if I'm conflating the two, or what's going on there. But is an actor model like a subset of just general state machine things? I guess this all comes back to around to, you had actually mentioned it on Twitter, Ratio. XState, I think, would be a very fun topic. I have done other state machines or things to handle state, but I have not actually had the time to get into XState. And it seems like it's come quite a long ways. So I think that will eventually be something that we get into more. Okay, so context. We got that. We're yielding. We're returning. That should give us context there. So I think we've got everything here. We're going to get rid of... Hopefully I don't need any of this. Don't think... Because as you can see, I've neglected to actually commit for a while. Because I've got a bunch of like... couple of those streams, a lot of the WTF. So right now our app is just going to be the frame, which is fine. Let's see if I screwed, how much I screwed up here. So we got frame is pulling in all that stuff. Emit, yield TMI, provider. So I think this is probably the best way to hook it up. And I'm not getting any errors. Let's stop and restart our server. I'm gonna do a little bit of this quick because we had some weird situations where things were caching unexpectedly, or well, not unexpectedly, but in ways that we weren't expecting. So we're definitely getting, let's pull this out. Guess we'll do this. I don't know that that matters too much, but since that's sort of the outer scope, we'll do that. Okay. I apparently completely broke it all. And you know what? Yeah, it's not helpful at all. Not unexpectedly, but in ways we weren't expecting. I was expecting things to be cached, but I was doing it and we were experiencing it in ways that I was not anticipating. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Like, a cache in general is not an unexpected thing. But the fact that I had to RMRF parcel cache and just and hard reload the browser window, that was not anticipated. Okay. Reference error. Init is not defined. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. We are kind of just rolling it back to make sure that I moved everything over correctly. Okay, so we got our frame. Now, if we drop this in there, it's going to block on this, and I think that's where we actually need to pull in this one. Because I don't think it's actually returning. Spawn. So it seems like it's returning now. Let's do this. All right. I think we might be good. I just kicked over my water bottle. Somebody want to type in chat? Cross your fingers. We should see a console.log from this if we've got it wired up correctly. At least some of it. Found a few modern browsers cache hard to try to make things more efficient. Yeah. I tend to use private browsing a lot. So much so that I wonder if I've gotten used to things not caching as much. And this isn't. So this is just a separate Chrome profile. I wonder if that's it. So like if I opened this up in an incognito, I wonder if it would do less of that. Okay, so we are yielding on the init. It's connecting. Let's just drop a console log in here. So we should be getting a log here. Does that prevent all caching or just doesn't persist across sessions? I think there's some nuance with it. So it's still the session stuff. When you close the incognito browser, it dumps all the session stuff. So like cookies, I think, are probably a big thing. So you still could potentially have cookies lying around in a single like working session of that incognito browser where you might need to do one of these. Do a hard reload, dump the cookies. But once you close it, all that is dumped out. So it's not going to persist like between sessions. So it's kind of a nice way to like, if you're working on something and you're just having these weird issues crop up and you don't understand what's happening, like close the browser, reopen it. And that's a kind of like my quick way to get rid of all that stuff hanging around. But there's also some of that is dependent on the framework, I think, because they all try to do this hot reloading, which is nice when it works. And I think they all do it slightly different. And what they're basically doing is they like set up a watcher and they're like refreshing parts of the page. So you might still have stuff stick around depending on what you're doing. And I think what was potentially happening with us was, so one of the issues that we were having was this GLTF. We are using a plugin that is called static files copy. It was just copying that into the dist directory. I think that the Parcel server wasn't seeing it changing at all, or it wasn't recopying when we'd rerun it or something. And then when you hit the URL, I think it was either the server showing an old cache, or it was the server instructing the browser to cache that thing. And since, is it hashed? I don't think it's hashed at all. And I guess none of the stuff in here technically, oh wait, here, never mind. Yeah, so that stuff's not hashed, but the other stuff is. So I think what was basically happening is that we had the hot reloading working. It's expecting files to be hashed. Hash being this like alphanumeric thing at the end. And when it would see a change, it would dump out a new file. The new file would have a new hash. That would trigger the refresh. And yeah, so this assets is sort of working like externally linked files almost. There's no hashing or anything. So like there's no way to instruct the browser to refresh that. Depending on how the server is informing the browser, it needs to handle that cache. So it's one of those like, when you understand what's happening, it makes sense. But when you're just working on a thing and you like change a value, in our case, we were trying to get the textures to pull in and nothing changes. That's just super confusing. And I think behind the scenes, that's effectively what's happening is it's just copying it over. It doesn't have any hashes. So like, there's no way to tell it to actually refresh. So something is, I think it's the server not seeing a different file and not telling the browser to load a different file effectively, and it's told the browser already to cache the old one. So anytime you like refresh, the browser goes, oh, I'm just going to point to that old one still. I've got it in my browser cache still. So I think that's part of why we had to do that. Okay, so we dropped in a log just to make sure we were getting into this init. We are getting a client. It looks like we are doing it on a mit. I think we need this spawn. I'm gonna take it out just to double check and see if we are. If we do a yield on a mit, anytime we yield, it's very similar to within Effection. Generators work very similar to promises, but with more control. So you can think of the yield as an await. So we're awaiting this thing. On a mit, isn't actually returning, I don't think. So we never get here because it's basically waiting for things to return. And I think what it kind of gets me is that most of the times that I've used it is in this fashion, where we want it to just, we hit that event and just like wait on that event. And every time we get something triggering on that event, do a thing. But in this case, we just want to like, is dumping it into this channel that we have. So I'm pretty sure we want to wrap it in a spawn. So that'll give us the client that'll return the response channel. I think that's what we want. So we should, I still feel like there's some piece missing, but we should get something in. But we're not. We should have shown it before when I had it working. Oh well, that's how it works. That's how it goes. But I ended up moving everything around. So we do need to do. We do need to yield on this because it's a generator. We're spawning off this. Where we're returning the channel. I think that's right. I mean, even if we weren't doing any of this channel stuff, like let's just do this. So we're still yielding. Oh, spawn. Okay. So if we're yielding to the animate, yeah, it's not actually going to continue. So I think we do need that spawn there. But why aren't we getting actually any messages there? Well, let's try to let's look up the use of it. Because this is going to return a stream. So I think what we can then do is we've got our frame. And we've got a model. And our model is where we're going to start to care about the animations, wherever they went. Actions, I guess is what they're calling them. Oh, here's animations. Use animations. We're not using use effect here. So I think we can do a thing where we use I guess that's basically subscription. I think we want a subscription there. And yielding on that. And we can always worry about doing multiple streams and whatnot later. So we haven't broken anything. That's still rendering. We've got a subscription. So const Twitch events equals and actually I don't think we want to do that. We want to this is basically the consumer side of things now. So we've got a hook. Actually, no, I think that is right. So we want to do use putting it together with context provider. We're kind of like here. So we want to I guess we need to export that context, don't we? I suppose we actually pull this out in like a separate hook then, eh? Because if we're gonna do the hook version of it, and we're gonna have use subscription, we need to give it access to that subscription. This would be so much easier if I had been using React Context more recently here. I used it a bunch when it first came out. It's just been all Node and Rust since. Create context, Twitch context. We got the provider. We're doing the net. So we need to do the consumer side of things. If we're doing use subscription, it expects a subscription. And it's doing use operation. And use operation. Oh, okay. So use operation is just running within the. It's running the for each within the scope of Effection. So we still need. We still need that subscription. So we need these Twitch context. So we're dumping the Twitch context into a provider. Which I guess we're gonna probably go back right to let's roll back to Horatius snippets of wisdom here. So we create a custom provider component, which is basically what we've kind of done with this Twitch context now. And I pulled it in because I needed to do the yield, but really I could keep it all separate. And I'm making a provider and a context as a separate piece. and then a custom hook to check if the context is available before returning the context. Okay. So, I mean, I pulled this in here, but actually I think we're going to do context / twitch inputs.tjs. We're doing JS with this so far. Okay, let's try this again. It's funny how I'm like, let's do some 3D models. And then I'm in React the whole time. So we're doing spawn. We don't need Effection context, React DOM, or app. We need those. We are doing an export and export. So we can get rid of all of this. And we need to do an import of init TMI and Twitch context from context Twitch inputs. So now I think we can then do an import from Twitch context. There we go. Hey, thank you. And this is going to give us the context which we can then it's going to have a subscription. Okay, so that's going to give us the context of which we can then consume it via this hook. So this will give us the Twitch subscription, which is sort of a funny kind of speaks funny when we're talking about Twitch here. It's not actually Twitch subscriptions. Okay, so if we do console.log Twitch events, I have no idea what that's actually going to give us. Cannot read properties of undefined. Okay. Error boundaries, provider. Okay. So we definitely have something that's still a little bit off. Let's pull it out for the minute. We're doing an init, setting up a provider with that init. So this all appears to work. Sent me a Twitter DM with a simple example. That would be a simple example for, I guess I can just open it up. Theme context. I feel like theming it was like, oh my goodness, we don't need to like pass this everywhere. And then it just like made CSS and JS functionally useful. Okay, theme context. So that's sort of what we're doing. Use theme. Oh, yeah. I suppose I could just do this. I think I'm doing it in that already. That makes sense. Um, and that's doing the provider. Oh, yeah. We were going to do that, weren't we? Because then we could just pull this in. And we don't have to do this. Um, this little bit is the thing that I need to. I think I'm probably gonna like ask on that because we need to yield to it to get the value. I don't know where else we can use the generator stuff. Um, I think I'm gonna have to check on that. But we do this little function which gives us the pieces that we need. Can add an effect inside the custom provider and change a local variable there. That will be the actual context value. Yes, and I think that is the idea behind like use subscription. So it's setting like a local state from the provider. Um, and then like I think what we can do here is we are looping over and setting the state. So we can. I might end up just like re-implementing a bunch of this. But like we want to put it into sleep in there. We don't want to just every time we get a message just to instantly return it necessarily. So this might end up just we might not end up using this, but I think what you're saying there is basically what they're trying to do here. Because use operation has use effect. With the context. Context being the outer scope of, I don't know why it's not highlighting. It's weird. CSS broke for a second there. So like you can pretty nicely encapsulate the theme provider here, but I don't know how to do that with this, being that it is wrapped in this main to do all the scoping, and then there's this yield. So like this is sort of a little bit lower level of what you're doing, and then we're just assembling it here. But now that we have the Twitch context, which is effectively that, we can also do this. And rather than exporting the Twitch context, we can say use Twitch, and that is going to be this. Since we already have React like that, we're going to do this and this. So now we should be able to do a use Twitch in this. And I don't know that I actually need to give it any values then, eh? Okay, we got a type error. That's something. Cannot read properties undefined. Provider, init to TMI. I guess I still need that. Did you end up? Yeah, you do export that too. Okay. Yeah, I think we need to either in the components or something. We need to add React boundaries because it's just like catching stuff. Okay. Um. So we've got Twitch subscription. We're using that. Now I think we can use subscription here, and that's going to do the looping over. Yeah, I don't. This use subscription. I don't know what the heck it's doing. Um. Let's do console.log Twitch subscription. Let's see what we're getting here. We are getting undefined on line 17. So use Twitch is doing use context and returning Twitch context. It seems like it should be working. Like it seems like that's correct, right? It's one of those things that like I'm gonna like come back to and be like, oh yeah, okay. I actually did it with this. When I first set up channel, I just called it channel, and then did channel.send. But there's a channel on it, and I'm like, oh, what is happening? It turns out I just had a name clash, and I don't know if it's a personal thing or if it's Effection wrapping this stuff that's just hiding some of these errors. I suspect it's a bit of both. Which I guess that's what I get for using something that isn't super battle tested. But that's fine. That's part of programming. Tinkering, this is a fun thing. All right, so we don't actually need to give it a create context. Do we have to give it an initial value? Use Twitch. So like, I feel like this is all wired up right. So it's just something with, like we're still not getting the console.log. I just want to double check. I think it's gonna. Yeah. I think this should be a spawn. I think this is probably the other piece of in Node Effection errors are really nice. I don't know that we've done too much with Effection in the browser. It works from a technical standpoint. And maybe setting up this inspector will help. But I do feel like some scoping or something would be helpful to sort of key on what's going wrong here. So we're doing use Twitch, which is effectively the same as use theme. So like if we look at where we're returning use theme. So for whatever reason, we are getting undefined there. From the context that is coming from this through that, that is being pulled in here. We are doing this within the app. We're not actually setting any state or anything though. Does that matter? I don't think that matters. And I don't think we need a default value for context, right? Yeah, drink break. So these bits we are assembling here, which is, I think, functionally equivalent to theme provider. And I'm presuming theme provider is then pulled into the page. You can have null as the initial value. Do you actually have to pass a value though? I guess maybe that's the undefined. Maybe it's not actually returning any value there. That could be, where am I? That could be null. We didn't set a context value, so that's why it was undefined. So now it's returning null. Okay. Okay. So it's not actually getting this at all, is it? I mean, at the very least, it should be getting this. Don't tell me that's it. No, it's still null. What? In the what? Maybe it's not updating the value passed to the provider. Yeah, let's whoop, console log init. So we're getting a stream. So we're getting a stream. Do we do like a use operation or something on it? Let's double check the, where'd that go now? That example that we were working off of. Here, inspect UI. Because I think like we're pretty much doing the provider stuff the same way that you, with a little bit of tweaks, the same way you had it set up, right? Where are we consuming the context? So within model, we have a use Twitch, which is equivalent to use theme. And that is where we are getting the null. So model is, I mean, it's, there's not much nesting going on right now, but it's within the app, or within this canvas stuff. So here's where we're getting the null. That's pulling from the context, I think, correctly. And then, so we've got that. It's doing null. What is this log after the null? Oh, I gotcha. This is here. No, actually, it's actions. Sorry. Log the result of use context inside the custom hook and see where you're getting there. So we have, inside use Twitch. Interesting. Okay. So like you're thinking do log the result of use. Oh, the result. Gotcha. I think it's gonna be the same thing, but it is worth a shot, right? I saved it, right? Yeah. Oh. I didn't actually log it. Womp womp. Okay, results. Now we got the log. And now we got the log. Yeah. I did all this stuff to actually log it, and then it didn't actually log it. Yeah. So that's where it's coming from. So the context is just straight up null. So we're not actually modifying the context at all. We are getting, so we're logging out a init. A init is returning this, which I believe is a stream. If we go to this, okay, so it's going to change. Next, so yep, that's a subscription. So we are returning. If we just do return response channel, that channel is a stream. So somewhere this init is good. Somewhere within our render, when we were setting up the provider, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. Right? Like we've confirmed this seems good. Once it gets in there, we've confirmed the value. Welcome, welcome. Sin Devil, I love pie. I appreciate pie. The cake is a lie. Nice. So this definitely matches up with what is in our context. So this context appears correct, but it's not actually. Just call you pie. Okay. I can do that. So we've confirmed, we kind of like have a little black box going on. We've did some things and we've confirmed right before passing it into said black box. And after said black box, we get the initial value out. Like, yeah, I mean, if we want to be like super, super certain here. If it's just not re-rendering the app. I mean, that would be on brand. So like initial value. So the context is just showing the initial value. And we're just like, we're returning a channel. When we do a send isn't actually going to do anything if there's no subscriptions. We are spawning off an event listener. We should be getting a log though on an event. It's a silly error, I'm sure. I mean, I feel like this. We're like, I don't know what, 4 or 5 streams into this project, and I feel like we would have been. I feel like the progress that we've made should have happened in 2. What are we working on? Yes. So we've got React with React Fiber 3 and React 3 Dry rendering a GLTF that we pulled off of. I don't remember what website we pulled it off of, but this is actually a model created by the Smithsonian Museum. With animations. So that's all of the 3D stuff. There was some paint involved there, but we have that mostly working. Now the other part that we were doing, we want to hook up Twitch chat to be able to do actions on that model. We have TMI.js, which is a library to access the Twitch IRC chat relay service, hooked up and working with Effection, which is a library, a structured concurrency library built on generators. Is some library like three.js or is it Raw Webgl? React Fiber 3 is built on top of three.js, which is using WebGL. Does that answer your question? So you have a bunch of layers. React Fiber 3 is kind of like React components for React or for three.js. And I think it kind of hooks into the, like, it's a custom renderer for React. So it hooks into some of the tree re-rendering stuff, I believe, to really like take advantage of three.js plus React combination. Okay, so it's a silly error. It's gotta be something that we're missing. So the subscription, we need a subscription for the send to do anything, but that shouldn't matter. We've been working on a Raw Webgl project. NFT. I'm curious. Is there, like, what's the use case for Raw Webgl? Is it a learning project? Is there some specific thing that you want to achieve that you're being hindered by using something that is sort of wrapping WebGL? Can you add a log inside the function that creates the init? Just like something in here. So, I mean, we're definitely getting it, and it's not blocking it. Oh, index.js. Yeah, I mean, we've got that already, right? So that's sort of confirming the thing going into the black box, of which is our context. Got Twitch, yeah. Dot provider, right? Value. I mean, we've got all that. It's got to be something with that. The song sounds sort of like bombs for throwing at you. I don't know that I'm familiar with that. Ratio, is that in response to we have it logged there already? I feel like we've sort of like confirmed the ins and the outs. I'm like, why aren't they matching up? Oh, do we have? I don't have React DevTools. I feel like we've gotten into the point where we are running into some React issue. And normally this is where I would drop into React DevTools, but I don't actually have it installed in this profile. Where do they have? I assume they might reference it somewhere, right? DevTools. They just reference it a bunch of places, don't they? React DevTools. Okay. So let's take a peek at. My guess is that the net assignment or change is not caught by React and therefore does not update the context value. I imagine you are correct. I don't know what else it could be. Components and profile types. I don't see them. Where's components? Open the developer tools and components and profile tabs will appear to the right. Definitely do not see it. Don't remember having to enable it or anything. It's been a while since I installed it actually. Close and open. Oh yeah, I suppose I could try that. What? Arrows. Oh, hey, it did add them. Okay. I didn't even notice the arrows. Yes. Yep. Okay, so I guess I had to close and reopen it. Thank you, thank you. The React gods are against me today. This whole project is like that. But it wouldn't be fun without a little bit of struggle, right? Pi says doing WebGL with the library results in better performance, and it's your library is a real-time renderer for advanced substation alpha subtitles. Okay. I mean, I think it makes sense for that use case. Like you're building a library, which is pretty much the same idea behind like three.js. Like you need something specific out of that web API that you value that doesn't exist in the other libraries. So like I mean I can totally understand where you're coming from. We should really name these, shouldn't we? We can name them, can't we? context, type, display name. So when we do a create context, we can do something like that. Okay. Ugh, what did I copy? All right. Dot display name. We'll just do this. Twitch context dot display name equals Twitch context. There. Okay. So that's that. It's definitely there. It is definitely getting it. Big WTF. What did we miss? Not gonna bother porting it to WebGPU until it's standardized. I can understand that. I feel like I was looking at something else the other day that was using WebGPU. Maybe it was a Rust thing. I can't quite remember. I'm excited to see that the this whole browser as a render target for these things evolve. I feel like it's definitely come quite a ways. Can you call use Twitch in another component and see if you're getting it? So I think that's what we're doing here, right? Like this is all we need to do. Use Twitch, pull it from context, Twitch inputs, logging out Twitch subscription. And we are getting big old black box. So, I mean, it's got to be, like, it's clearly getting set. But, like, this is a one-time render. But I mean, it's doing these before. So, like, it should be putting that value in there, right? And, I mean, we see it in there. But, like, we're not getting it. So what's the difference? So error boundary suspense model. Let's just, so app is calling frame. Frame is pulling a model. Model is doing some like refs and GLTF stuff and whatnot. That's being rendered by that. It's using a create root. I'm wondering if we're getting some weird things going on there that we are just not seeing. And I gotta imagine that this hooking all of this up and doing providers within or context within like within a React Fiber 3 model. It's probably not a super common use case. So we've got Twitch provider. We really shouldn't. Can we name that too? Do we have control over that? Effection context. No. Oh, wait. We can do this. It's sort of hacky, but effection context dot display name equals. Thanks for stopping by, Horatio. I definitely appreciated your help. At the very least, it you know, it's a bit of a gut check. I'm not the only one that ins and outs seem like they should be lining up, but they're not. What's happening? Okay. We're gonna call this Effection Scope. And now that should, there we go. Okay, so we got the main Effection Scope, we got Twitch, app, frame, canvas. Just to make sure, because we also have this other provider, which is being created by a React 3 Fiber and is doing some boundaries and whatnot. I want to confirm that we aren't getting in any weird situations here. So we're gonna do a react.fragment. We're gonna say test component. We're going to import test component from test component. This is going to import React from React. This is going to export whatever I called it. Test component. Export test component. Function. Return. I got better posture. I need to put on some of these channel point redemptions to remind myself to drink and have better posture, because I am poor at those. All right. This is text for testing. So now we have like a very little mini component. It should be showing up at the bottom here. Our WebGL canvas frame takes up the whole height, so that's why I have to scroll just a smidge. You can see it showing up in our component tree. Now if we pull in use Twitch, and we grab this bit here, let's confirm that we are not getting anything different. Horatio's just gonna love this. There we go. So this saga continues. We have, let's review what's going on here. We have a root element. Let's just close all this. We'll just open them one at a time. It'll be easier. our sort of root wrapping thing has two providers: Effection Context, which is the scope for all of the functions that Effection is handling, and then Twitter Context. That is it's mostly a hook, but we do a little bit of the hook stuff here, just because this has a function star. Effection uses generators, which require the yield keyword. So that's why we're not handling it all within this. It's strictly a function that creates a channel, hooks into the message event from TMI.js. We set up a context and then the opposite to use the context as a hook in this new, or in app, which is being wrapped by this main index file. We've got two components, one called frame and one called test component. Frame is the outer component that ends up setting up all of the three.js React Fiber 3 stuff. Test component is the one that we just created. Test component uses the custom hook that we created and just logs out the value so we can inspect it, and then just dumps a hard-coded string of text. That hard-coded string of text works. Our log dumps out and matches the input that we're doing. That works. We had it working. What we were doing was right, but what's happening is Canvas, which pulls in model, is doing some stuff, of which it has, I'm guessing, I mean, looking at this, where is it? Componentry, that's what I'm trying to get to. We have the Canvas component here. I think the model is like a completely different, it's doing some portal stuff. So doing it in here is just straight up not working. I think because it's doing something under the hood where we're having trouble accessing it with our context. So either we need to, we need to figure out how it's doing it and or change it, or I'm hoping we can move it into the frame. So the canvas is the last component under our provider here. Canvas is calling model. So we might be able to get away with doing it here. So we do use Twitch. I guess let's just use Twitch. So that should let's clean up this test component here. Get rid of you, get rid of you. We don't need the test component anymore. Yes, through all the errors you want. Okay, so we've got our frame. Our frame is now doing the use Twitch. It should give us that in it as we were expecting. And like, honestly, I probably should have thought about this before. So we're getting that value. We're getting that value. Now what we can do is, I mean, model is just a thing. And like Canvas is just a thing. We can have multiple subscriptions. We can have multiple canvases. So I don't necessarily like dislike this. It just feels a little bit weird that we can't put it directly in the model. But if they're doing some fanciness with the model, like, all right, I think we could probably work with it. If we passed on some props, that might help us out here. So we've got our context. I think now we can pull in the use. We've got a stream from Effection React. So use Twitch is actually, it's a Twitch stream. And this is going to be the Twitch subscription. Console.log Twitch subscription. Just gonna take those out for right now. So this should give us state on the canvas, which isn't. I think that should be fine. I think that should be fine enough. We can get rid of that. Twitch. Inputs. So that's what we're getting right now. Thanks for the follow, Dungeoneer 3. I just realized, are those supposed to be fireworks? I remember seeing those before. I can never figure out what they were or when they happened. Ironic, right? Okay, so we should have. We might be using Ustream incorrectly here. Frames.js. Okay, so we're getting the values there. Use subscription. I think this is going to throw thing thaw blah 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 boop. I'm guessing it's doing state stuff, right? We can look at it in a sec, but I'm gonna try to be cheeky. No. Undefined is not iterable. Fair enough. Okay, so we are returning state. Oh, so that just gives us the state. We pass in a subscription. Oh. Ustream. It is just giving us the state. So it's like the current state. So we should be able to just do, call that a Twitch event. We are currently, okay. Channel creates a stream. We are returning channel, which is a stream. So we are using uStream. uStream is being pulled off of context. We have one value. Let's double check. We have the value. Which is the stream. So we're giving use Twitch is pulling it out of the context, passing it into uStream, which should give us the state. So this is managing our state. So that should give us something here, which is where we're getting the undefined. So our state is still like undefined, which is interesting. But then what we can do is we can pass that in. I don't know if I want to do this use stream. I don't think I want to, because I think I want to do something a little bit more custom. So we're gonna call this a Twitch event stream. We're gonna get rid of that. We are gonna pass this down. We should then be able to, within our model, we are just grabbing all the props here. We should be able to do const. So we're dumping props into that. We want Twitch event stream. And that's going to be pulled out of props. So we should be able to do this. Whoop. So now within the model, we should have something here. Okay, so we're still getting. Where is this? We're getting here. And we're getting an undefined on line 20. Guess we could just do this, yeah. It's still undefined. Why would it be undefined? Console.log. That's what I wanted. So Twitch event stream should be giving us the stream. Then we should be able to pass that down to the props, unless model is not expecting props. Model is, however, expecting props, one of which is, let's just log out all the props. Props. Okay. So that gives us, I don't think we want to do it that way. I think we do want to put it in double squiggly brackets, which will put it in an object. And now we'll have a props.twitch event stream. So Twitch event stream will be our stream then. In which case, in our model, we can do pull that out of props. There we go. No, model, what the heck? Didn't we just confirm it? Console.log props. Am I doing my destructuring wrong? Is the time just called today? Cannot destructure property. Oh. Oh, it's out. That's annoying. Props.props. Yeah, okay. We've got like nested props. Because they're already destructuring in the thing. So we've got seriously. Right? It's const this equals props dot. Like that's what's happening, right? So why isn't my destructuring working? Weird. Also, that's lovely. Why isn't destructuring working? What am I doing wrong? Come on, source maps. There we go. Okay. Okay. We've got our Twitch events now. So if we do a, I mean, I guess it speaks to if this is going to be like a generated thing. We do want to hook this up, so we're going to have to like modify this anyways. So maybe it doesn't matter. So we should be able to do Twitch event equals use we're going to do use operation, but we're going to grab this. So use stream takes the stream, which is what we have, does some set state stuff. This is running the operation within the scope of our Effection and returning the state. So like every time we get a new value here, we're going to get the new state. Which I suppose we can create a new stream. So maybe that's fine. So if we say use stream, Twitch event stream, we're going to say import use stream from that. We're still getting undefined there. So like it's doing something odd. So we're going to grab that. We're going to say use operation. We're going to rewrite this a little bit because it is currently written in TypeScript. I don't have an initial value. We need to use state. We don't need TypeScript. We're doing use operation. We're setting that, and then we're returning the state. So now we have functionally recreated what we were importing and using. It is still undefined. So we've got a state with our initial value. So we should be able to do value. Use operation, and then the stream is doing the subscription. So it's probably fine that it's undefined for right now. So like what we could say is our current state when we first start is none. And I believe that's going to change it from undefined to none. None. There we go. Okay. So we have the subscription and there's nothing there. So now I think if we send something, we are not getting any logs. So we get the initial state, and then we have a use operation, and then we're doing a return. It is possible we're running into the same context thing here too. So actually, let's pull this back up. We're gonna do it all in here. I want to make sure that we're not getting in any funky situation where okay, so we've got that. So we've got a use stream. We don't care about props. We are using this, and we're going to use operation. Use state is not defined. That is fine. Okay, so we've got none. We're logging out those two pieces, right? Yep, both from frame. So now, if we send something, we are still not getting any logs. What the heck? So I really do think we stay out of model. There seems to be some magic going on with refs and whatnot that our providers would just fall within a different scope. So if we need to stick around and frame, it is what it is. Use Twitch is grabbing the context. And then we have stream, which is doing an operation. We should be able to log out the stream. Stream is doing a for each. And we're returning the value and doing a set state. And it's basing it off of stream. Stream is defined here. I kind of... Do we need a yield? I am not 100% certain. It's not breaking. So I think that's definitely a big part of it. I wonder. I don't think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna break it all. Yeah. Okay. So things. what did we figure out? We figured out that model is doing its own portal or something, refs and portals and whatnot, that it creates its own provider that's outside of the component tree for the provider that we are creating. We have an Effection scope, a Twitch context, and then that's all getting into Canvas now. So we're just going to handle it all at the Canvas level, pass down some props. And anytime that keeps the model a little bit more pure, I guess. And effectively what we can do is we can say pass on the state. And the state is just going to be like a value, and the value is going to be the action it needs to be doing at that time. So anytime we get a state change, it's going to basically affect this model and switch the it's going to switch the animation that's working on through that hook. So I don't think we can actually do anything in there, and I think that will be fine. Just pass props down. We set up the context. I think we got all the context working, other than the weirdness with the model. Twitch event stream is a stream coming back from our function. And yeah, see, so this is a subscription, I think. So I think we do need to not yield here. Close this. We don't need the app. Okay. Use stream as a function out of Effection React. We just grabbed it and pulled it directly so we could basically inspect it a little bit easier. Everything's working there, and then it does the use operation. So the actual like use operation that it's doing is the stream.forEach. It doesn't actually seem to be running. Or it's missing out on something. So what is use operation doing? It's also sending a context with Effection context. Effection context is using the Effection root, and it is running a thing and then halting it when it's done. So, I mean, it's entirely possible that there's something not working within this. If we do, I think we need to do spawn on emit, because otherwise it's going to block, and we don't want it to block on an event. We just want it to like create the event and like keep listening to it. It will do all the teardown and everything when the Effection scope gets killed. So we don't need to worry about closing all these event handlers or anything. I don't know that it matters that I did this. I think that's purely in the Devtools. I don't think it actually affects anything. So is there anything else that we can do to test? We are logging out the stream. The stream seems good. If the stream changes, that's going to trigger the use effect. We are looping over the stream, doing a console log with that state. I don't really need to send an initial event. I can check if it's undefined. I'm okay with that. So then it's this use operation. And there are additional dependencies. So you can give extra dependencies. Otherwise, it's going to do it purely based off the scope. So like we're not even getting the console log. So we're not getting any events. So like the event listener is maybe not working. I mean, it works. I've tried it and it comes back. That's generally the right. That's the right code here, I think. The question is just, should it be in a spawn? I think it needs to, because I don't think we want to wait on this. We're not going to like subscribe to events there or listen to events there, maybe is a better way to say it. We're not going to listen to events there and just continue waiting for events. We want to add the listener and just return the channel, because that's where all of our messages are going to go. So 10, 18, and 28. 10, 18, and 28. So our state is definitely undefined. I mean, all that makes sense. I guess I am returning stream. Stream should be, I mean, I guess there is a for each, yeah. So you should be able to just do the stream directly. Just to confirm, let's double check if we do a subscription, if we can get any different result. When we have a channel, if we yield to it, we get a subscription. So if we yield to this, it is now a subscription. So this won't be a stream. It's going to be a subscription, but there should still be a for each there. So like I think functionally the code stays the same. Let's just double check. Stream for each, set state. Stream for each, set state. I think functionally it's all the same. The big difference is the typing, which we don't care about. So like technically it still says use stream, but it's a subscription now. We'll just roll with it. So it should be simpler, which it is, and we're getting the for each there. So we're gonna get anything. Wow, what in the heck? Okay. I feel like it is something with this on emit, because we're not actually getting, it's blocking if we do this. So I don't think that's right. We want the for each to be async, but message event, the actual subscription itself, we want it to yield on setting it up, but then actually doing anything with that, I'm pretty sure I had this in here before actually. So we want to spawn off the action that's connected to the event. So the event listener, we want to set that up right away. Then once it's set up, keep going. And then we're also going to spawn up an action that happens when we receive an event. And that spawn is going to be the asynchronous bit. Still nothing. Maybe I should try something that's not just an emoji. Yeah. We can components. Are we still doing? Oh, okay, we're still doing a subscription. I don't know if that matters that much, but okay. So now we have a stream. Do we need to? Well, we create a channel. No, we don't have to yield to that. So we create a channel. Sending won't actually do anything if there's no subscribers, which is fine. Once we have a subscriber to the channel, then we can do something with it. That's why this happening async makes sense, I think. Subscription happens when we do a for each. So we're looping through everything in the stream and setting the state. That's empty originally. I feel like there's something funky with this use stream. I feel like there is something funky going on there, or I'm not understanding something. We're going to grab this. Again, these are sort of functioning the same. We're just going to call it use S thing because it's like whatever we qualified it as. We're going to use operation. We're just going to call it a value. Not void, value. We'll get rid of the TypeScript stuff here. Effection context is going to come from Effection context. We are not doing use operation anymore. We do need use context. And we do make use of use effect. So I think functionally now we aren't relying on anything from that library. So we are getting an undefined on 18. Task run. And it's going to be the operation that's running based on the scope. So we're getting the task running. So it's running that operation, which makes sense because we were able to log into here. So something is happening here, I think, that is not actually doing our work. When we spawn, we are going to do a message event. We are yielding on is on emit. Here, let's look at the API docs. There's on and there's on emit. On emit. So you can spawn. Yeah, see, like that makes sense. Sleep for 10 and then do that. So it's just spawning off this emitter that does this thing. Yield once, we would want to wait for that event. But both on emit and on, I think we want to spawn those. I suspect we want to spawn those always. So let's go back to that. And let's make sure the last bits of this is, so we're getting task running. We should be getting the we don't actually need to do anything with that. What's the emit? I thought we did check that, right? So the on emit is a for each and a function. I don't know if that matters. Can it not be a generator? All right. Well, I think we have kind of exhausted all of our debugging effort for today. I feel like we should be spawning on emit. Works if we're not doing the channels. Like if I just did this, let's just pull up that for the moment. So we definitely had that working. Yield spawn on emit. I feel like that is all correct here. I don't see anything that's just jumping out at me. Spawn on emit emitter, and then the event client. We're doing message for each. I think that's all right. And I think we've pretty much confirmed that we're getting to the actual operation. We're getting task run. We're just not getting here. So when it returns, it's returning a stream right now. So if we do return a subscription, it should functionally be the same except for this value. But we're still not actually getting any events. Let's double check that. Let's double check that we get the client, and then we're going to double check that we have an event listener there. And if none of that's working, I think we are going to call it for the day. So we're definitely getting the client. We then yeah, I mean, what can he do? Please work. What's funny is I don't think we actually saw it working on stream. I had it working without the queue and the channel and whatnot. And then we never showed it. We jumped right in, which is fine, but it also meant like I'll double check in the replay because I didn't bother to save it. I guess that's the benefit of recording. This should work. I saw it work. So what's falling down? That's the hard part, right? So I think we've solved all the React context stuff. Now we're back to Effection. Why won't you work? We've ripped apart the Effection React package. It appears to be in the same componentry with the context as expected. That is now a subscription, not a stream. We are getting the task run, so it's running the operation. And the operation right now is a for each. We don't need to do anything with that, do we? I mean, we're getting a stream. This whole thing should be scoped within it already, right? So we're yielding. We don't. I guess that actually, we could pull that out. We've been at it for quite a while already. Do we try it? I mean, it appears to be in the right scope and everything. Because we're getting values there basically, right? So where does my subscription happen? My subscription happens at this point. If we do we don't have a way to send right now. Like we almost need I definitely feel like we need more hooks. we've got this. It seems to be putting it in as a provider in the right spot based on this returning. It doesn't seem to matter if I leave this on, so I'm going to context. We're getting the right context. It's dumping into the context. We should be able to just do the loop over it. We need to use operation because that is the thing that's using the context. And that's the scope.run is a way to run scope.run is a way to run an option or an operation just kind of one off without having to worry about the yield generator syntax. So this is a generator right now. Generators within generators. So it's doing some set state stuff. If we literally just did this, I don't want to do anything other than just log this stuff out. So if we run a use operation, just log the events. We're not going to give it any extra context or anything. Just loop over that stream and log everything out. So we're getting a task run. I think that's old. Yeah, client task run frame 26. Oh, use operation. Okay. Yeah, so it's running the operation. It's not going to have anything on that yet. But I think it's going to stay subscribed to it, right? So I think I'm missing something with that. I think that's the last bit. We definitely may need to make these hooks and stuff easier. Like I said, we did a lot with the node, and it works pretty well in the node environment, especially for CLIs. I really like it for CLIs. I think we could put a little bit more effort into it. His stuff is pretty out of your depth. Yeah, the React context stuff, I think it's a thing. I don't know. I don't know what kind of opinion to have on it. I feel like every time I use it, it's nice to eliminate the prop drilling. And I think there's very specific use cases for it. But I feel like a lot of the React, the functionality behind React, I think a lot of it could just be used by library developers. A lot of that you don't really need to theoretically use context, except for very specific situations. And I think a lot of that could just be better managed by libraries. And in this case, I think we should be able to just delve it down into more hooks that do most of the work. But we don't have that. And like the examples that we have are, well, non-existent. And the use cases that we have are pretty complex. So it's hard to pull out snippets of that and try to figure out what you're doing wrong. So like we're doing all the same stuff here. But also like, why are we passing slice if we're like, I don't understand why we're just not putting that as a provider maybe. We end up passing it down anyways. And we're not actually pulling it out of context. So like we're kind of using React context, but not. So I think there's just some, I think we can kick the tires a little bit more with this to make it work well in the browser. But there's always stuff to do, you know. But long stream. Thanks for stopping by, Walton, and thanks for all the help again, Horatio, who is, I think, retired for the day. Anybody else that's been lurking, appreciate you. Have a nice weekend. Happy Friday. Maybe go get a drink after this stream. What can you do? You know, like I said, hard stuff. You learn a lot and it's interesting. It can be difficult at times, but you know, you kind of work through it and you can refine your debugging techniques and it's easier next time. That's the whole part of the game. Lots learning, but yeah. Happy Friday. Thanks again. Have a good one. Bye.